Hello, fellow hopefuls. Let's start today with a question. What thing or activity calms you down? Post your answers in the comments below, and then we'll get started. I'll give you just a second to do that. Okay, if it's still taking you too long, to pause the video and we'll get to it. All right, my name is Micah Hallery. I am a former pastor, a current teacher, and a future YouTuber. And today, I've got a nugget for you. Okay, in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6, it says this, "But godliness with contentment is great gain." Now, I have another video, I'm going to link it in the description, talking about the difference between contentment and complacency. But today I want to deal with contentment more specifically and ask, how do we get contentment? I mean, I want great gain, first of all, but I also feel that there's a need for contentment in my life, and I'll explain why. First of all, contentment, let me just define simply for you. I say it's satisfaction with the status quo. Contentment is a inner peace, it's a tranquility with what's going on around you. Now, peace is an inner satisfaction despite external circumstances. So contentment doesn't have to do with what's going on around you. It has to do with what's going on inside of you. You're okay. I don't want to say you're okay with what's going on around you because those things might be, bad. But you're content despite those things. If that makes sense. Okay. So how do we get contentment in our lives? And that's a really good question. And the answer is not easy, so let's get into it. First of all, I want to explain contentment can only come from Christ. Anytime we try to get our contentment from something else, whether it's, our job or the amount of money we have in our 401k or the types of relationships we have with our family, nothing on earth is going to be enough to give you true contentment. First of all, we weren't designed to realize contentment and fulfillment through the things of this world. We were designed to realize contentment through relationship with God. So that needs to be up front. But even on top of that, the things of this life are temporary. They don't last forever. If you try to go get contentment through providence, like getting enough stuff on earth, that stuff's going to run out. Or, stock market's going to crash or whatever it is. You try to get it through your relationships, people will let you down, you'll let other people down. I mean, there's always going to be something that prevents this from working the way we want it to. Now, you can enjoy this life, and you should enjoy this life. In fact, the Bible tells you to enjoy the world that He has created. But satisfaction, despite external circumstances, well, that doesn't come from enjoyment. Contentment is very different. You can say, I am content in this moment because I have everything I need, have everything I want. I'm chilling, I'm hanging out with friends, whatever. Right now, I am content. But that's not true contentment. That's satisfaction with right now. And tomorrow, the friends will be someplace else, or you'll have to go to work, or you won't be able to just chill, or, you'll get sick or whatever it is. And so we need to have another source of contentment. So unless you have all of your needs met all the time, which of course we can't, then you're never going to have contentment. And the only way to get this is through Jesus. Okay. But I want to explain there's a nice razor thin line between, real contentment and fake contentment. And that's because when we talk about being content in Jesus, it doesn't have as much to do with having everything we need right now. It's the ultimate providence, protection, all those things. In fact, let's talk about those things. There are 4 things that I think you need for contentment. First of all, protection. You need to know that you're safe. Second of all, providence. You need to have the things that you need to survive: clothing, housing, food, that kind of stuff. Purpose. You need to know why you're there and have things to do. Okay, we need to be able to do stuff. Now, I know we're human beings, not human doings, but we were created to do good works. I mean, that's in the Bible too. So we need to have that as part of our life. And then the 4th one doesn't start with a P. I'm sorry, I tried to make them all start with a P, but that's relationship. We're designed to need relationship in our lives. And so you can only get those constantly in Jesus. We look at, I'm content because I have these things right now, but they're not going to be constantly there. Instead, we need to be looking for those things in Jesus. And He kind of cheats because He says, I'm going to give you protection, perfect protection in heaven. You're going to have some protection here on earth. Don't get me wrong. He hasn't just left you out here to fend for yourself. He's here with you. He's inside of you. He's got his angels. I mean, all that's very real. But things aren't going to be perfect right now. You're not going to be perfectly protected the way you think you should be. Okay. Providence, God promises to provide for your needs, but it's not going to be the way you want, most likely. I mean, if I had my druthers, I would just say, God, let me win the lottery and then I'll have plenty of money and then you don't have to worry about me ever again. He's not going to do that. I know he's not going to do that because I don't buy lottery tickets. So if he wants to do that, he's going to have to do something very miraculous. And, he says, I'm going to take care of your needs. It might not be the way that you expect, but ultimately I take care of your needs in heaven. Purpose. We have our ultimate purpose fulfilled in relationship with Jesus. And then, of course, relationship, that's the unbroken relationship in heaven. And so, yes, Jesus fulfills all those things down the road. And so part of contentment is getting to the point where you recognize, no, everything is not perfect right now. And that's okay, because it will be better. That's part of contentment. Now, there's a few fakes out there that I want to share with you. I know this is supposed to be a nugget. It's a little bit longer than I expected, but I want to share a couple of fake ones with you. First of all, faith plus promises equals all your needs met. Some people call it the name it and claim it. Some people call it the prosperity gospel. I think that's a misnomer because the prosperity gospel is a little more specific than that, but it's the idea that if we combine faith with God's promises, then he'll take care of all of our needs. And that's true, sort of. It's not true the way it is displayed or described to people, because the providence, the protection, like we said before, it doesn't always come the way you expect. It certainly doesn't always come the way you need, and it never comes in the timing that you want it to come. This isn't true contentment. All you're doing is pushing your discontent down the road and saying, it's going to be okay when I have enough faith and build it up. And I know, it's like, well, the other one's just contentment in heaven. But this is more nefarious because you're expecting God to do things right now, maybe right now in a year, in a month, whatever. But, we're not looking towards the actual promise of heaven. We're looking towards the promises being fulfilled right now. And it's never going to last. Anything that God gives you right now is not going to last unless it's in your character or wisdom or something like that. Any blessing that he gives you in providence or protection, it's not going to last because we live in a broken world and a world filled with broken dreams. The next one is complacency. Now, this isn't as much a theology as much as it is a habit. And complacency is don't bother with anything that you need in this life. Just don't worry about it. Just pretend you don't need it. Well, this is unbiblical. The Bible tells us to actually pray for the things that we need. So, Jesus says, give us this day our daily bread. No, he's not praying for a Ferrari, but he is asking God for things. Some people say, well, I'm just not going to ask God for anything because he knows what I need before I ask. Yeah, but that quote is in the context of asking God for what you need. So, complacency, I'm just not going to bother with it. I mean, first of all, it's unbiblical. Second of all, it sets you up for bitterness because ultimately you develop a negative attitude towards God and saying, you don't want to take care of me. You don't want to bless me and give me the things that I need or even some of the things that I want. You don't care about me, and it develops bitterness in our heart. And number 3, it doesn't produce relationship. I think one of the reasons why God promotes us and says, I want you to ask me for things, even though he knows what we need, is because he wants us to relate to him, to interact with him. And because we're big babies, the easiest way to interact with him is to ask him for things. And so if we get complacent and we just say, I'm just not going to bother, well, that actually doesn't build the relationship between him and I, between him and us and you. The last one is legalism. And this is, remember in the verse, it said godliness with contentment is great gain. Legalism is godliness without contentment. And that's why it's not great gain. Legalism says, if I'm going to do good enough works, then God will take care of me. And this is also unbiblical. It's very clear in the New Testament that that's not how things work. Now, being good does produce good fruit. Don't misunderstand me. But being good to get God to bless you is legalism, and it's not going to work. And this legalism produces neither relationship or fulfillment because A, you don't get the things that you think God will do if you do, enough good things. And B, it's not a real relationship with him. You're just trying to curry his favor. So those are some fake ones. True contentment can really only come through a relationship with Jesus. If you know him, not just know about him, but actually know God, know Jesus, then you can have that relationship side if you fulfilled, because you have got that relationship with him. If you rely on his guidance when he talks to you and speaks to you, this avoids complacency, because he tells you, hey, I want you to do this. I want you to pray for this. I want you to seek this and pursue this. And so it avoids complacency, and it produces action, which you need. You need action. And then, of course, loving him leads to trust, and that trumps all circumstances. And that's where we really see true contentment, where you trust Jesus despite your circumstances, that it's going to be okay eventually. That's true contentment, and it's the only way to get it. So don't forget to answer today's question. What is something that calms you down? Also, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and post a comment, please. Even if you're just insulting me, I encourage you to do that. And also share the video, because if this video gave you some truth, gave you some encouragement, gave you some instruction, other people need that too. So share that with your friends. You can also join me on Instagram and Facebook. Go to my website, hopebeyondhype.com. There's links to those social media sites there. Also more information about me and other materials. And that's today's Hope. We'll see you next time.